or we will continue to support the Syrian opposition in order to remove him by force. But as I said earlier, he will be removed.
I am confident that Assad's days are numbered.
The world will not waver. Assad must go.
We both agree that Assad needs to go.
It is just further evidence that Assad has to go.
He is no longer legitimate and that he needs to go.
For the sake of the Syrian people, the time has come for him to step aside.
You can see Plan A starts over here in Qatar, goes through Saudi Arabia, so we're good so far, and it would be okay to make it to Turkey if it weren't for Syria. So this, of course, is where the problem comes in. So, guys, again, a lot of this comes down to Western Europe not wanting to have to rely on Russian gas and wanting a new avenue to be able to purchase the gas that they need every single day. And the U.S., of course, is cool with this because then Europe would be able to help them out more against the interests of Russia. Of course, the many Middle Eastern countries that are against Assad because the geopolitical interests and the oil interests kind of align against him are obviously more than willing to make a deal with the Western powers. And I think the other thing to point out is that no matter what we hear about the Syrian civil war, no matter what we hear about why it's going on and ISIS and who's funding who, the pipelines are not being talked about. It's a very often ignored topic.
On Wednesday morning, the Federation Council Upper House of Parliament granted permission to the Russian president to use the country's troops in Syria. Kremlin Chief of Staff Sergei Ivanov said that Russia will only use its air force in Syria, and it does this on Syrian President Assad's request.
The United States should not be there. Russia was certainly invited in there by the legitimate elected government, and all we've done is create the very same terrorists that we are claiming to fight. I think the entire world now can see the truth, and Mr. Putin has done a very good job of very subtly showing that the game that Obama is playing and the Pentagon is playing in the Middle East is a complete farce.
Песен еще не написанных сколько, скажи, кукушка, пропой. В городе мне жить или на выселках, камнем лежать или гореть звездой, звездой. Солнце мое, взгляни на меня. Моя ладонь превратилась в кулак. И если есть порох, дай огня. Вот так.
И мы не будем вытирать слез с нашей души и сердца. Это останется с нами навсегда. Но это не помешает нам найти и наказать преступников. Наша работа, боевая работа авиации в Сирии должна быть не просто продолжена. Она должна быть усилена таким образом, чтобы преступники поняли, что возмездие неизбежно.
To put Russia's 1 year of peacemaking operations in Syria in perspective, one should think back to what the situation was like on the eve of the arrival of the first Russian aircraft, support personnel, military advisors, and military equipment to Syria. By all accounts, Syrian government forces were in retreat on all fronts, being pushed back in Raqqa, Aleppo, Hama, Idlib, and Latakia provinces. The Islamic State, the Jabhat al-Nusra, the so-called Free Syrian Army, and many other smaller rebel formations were conquering towns and military bases, with their advance triggering a flood of refugees into Turkey, Jordan, and other countries. Syria stood practically alone, with some Iranian assistance for sure, against a seemingly motley group of rebel formations which, however, enjoyed a generous financial, military, and even operational support by several outside powers, including the United States, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey, with Jordan and Israel maintaining a state of benevolent neutrality towards the rebels. In September of 2015, the days of the Assad government seemed numbered. In September of 2016, virtually nobody expects the Assad government to fall. Even the US Secretary of State John Kerry, in conversations with Syrian opposition, which were made available to US media, acknowledged that the anti-Syrian coalition has been outmaneuvered to the point that the long-standing US, NATO, EU mantra of Assad must go has become obsolete. To the extent that nearly everyone recognizes that the world is now multipolar, Russia's effective use of military power in Syria is the single most important factor behind that shift.